So this is the time where we talk about how it went for the trial, I guess, if you will,
No
of
such thing.
snaps.
There's
It wasn't
no
a trial.
such
It was,
no.
It was a thing. We did it.
Because not only have we been on this snap thing, we've been promising the snap history for a while.
Oh yeah, way too long.
Yeah. So if you're on the YouTube, I posted that a couple of days ago. So check that out. If you're listening to this in one go on the podcast, that was a few minutes ago. So listen to it more than once, I guess. But
yeah,
we haven't been using snaps since we said we were going to be using snaps. I think between me and Dan.
You say that. I've been using them all along.
Exactly. We've been using them since about 2016. I guess
while.
Technically, Dan, were you Ubuntuing in for the 15.10 release, or was that before your time?
Nope. I had installed not actual Ubuntu at that point though.
But were you did you jump on the snap train as soon as they announced that, like, hey?
It was pretty early. I don't remember when exactly. Yeah. Certainly I had tested some by 1804. No question by that. And had them installed and they were still sitting there, yeah.
Yeah, just sitting there, unopened.
Not
ready
necessarily.
To be slow.
Maybe. I'll tell you the one that I've used the most, and I think it is probably one of the best use cases, and I know there are more, but I'd love to see more of these types of things, and that's Nextcloud. I've had Nextcloud installed as a snap since early days, right?
Yeah.
And it has survived updates, and it just continues to work. It is probably one of the most fantastic snaps that exist.
And it's first party. Nextclouders put that together. They themselves put that snap together, which means that all of your tooling is a little different than maybe in the Docker container or whatever.
Slightly,
but
yeah,
but it's all there.
I don't know. It feels Docker-ish in a way because sometimes you do have to go into a Docker container and do some magic stuff and fiddle with things a little differently than if you natively installed it.
Yeah, when I was setting it up, the amount of times I had to type in OCC dot whatever was too many times, but I'm like you. I've been running the Nextcloud snap since, and I checked because I installed Nextcloud for permanent use on the machine that I built in 2020, and I checked that out. I say that. I don't remember exactly the day. I'm going to say the 9th. I don't know why that number's in my head, but December 9th of 2020 is when I installed that Ubuntu, and it's been going ever since. And Nextcloud, after I got it all set up, hasn't given me any trouble, except for the self-signed certificate thing, which is annoying. But other than that, I mean, the
it's
application...
just local on my LAN. I don't know how much I would care to get an actual cert anyway, right?
I don't, but it does bother you sometimes. It's like, hey, the thing
you got to do extra clicks, but whatever.
But it's fine. I mean, I've
that's great.
It's been absolutely fantastic. I found that that you can get it, if you don't do much of anything, you can get it to just write onto a flat file system, so your backups are way easy. You can tar-g zip them instead of having to tar-gz a whole database or something like that. And so it makes getting at your files in an alternative way very, very easy, though Nextcloud supports WebDAV, which makes that also very easy. So you got a gajillion ways to poke at your files.
I guess the point is, though, I feel like it's one of the most fantastic use cases for a snap, and I absolutely love it. It's not a desktop app, but I don't know. It's just, I love it. Yeah,
this is why I can never say I ever fully hate snaps or anything like that. I mean, when you have an example of a really, 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 really good one, it's hard to be like, well, this one has its issues and this one whatever, so snap sucks. You can't really do that because it's been that we're going on 5 years now. I mean, in December it'll be 5 years. Okay, so a little bit, but
I think I've been running it about the same time. I think we both installed it around the same time.
Yeah, like I've been running it so long, I'm now running out of runway for that version of Ubuntu. I'm going to have to upgrade that version of Ubuntu.
Yeah, I've upgraded this box 3 times, maybe.
Wow. Okay, so here's my question to you then. Is there any kind of prep that you need to do for a snap? My initial feeling would be no, because the application is containerized, and when you upgrade, like it's like Docker. You could totally do a whole hop, skip, and a jump to a different architecture, different machine, and it still works. This would be the same way.
I didn't do anything when I updated.
Cool. So, I mean, I'll probably be cautious and like turn it off first.
Well, yeah.
But other than that, I just want to yeet 2404 on it and just be done for another 4 years and not think about it again. And,
yeah, pretty much. And like I know I installed it, around that time because it was when we were starting up the podcast. And I know, I used to do all the notes in there before we had. I don't even remember what we had. I guess before I stood up HedgeDoc. I don't know, before I stood up HedgeDoc, we were.
Oh, it was probably Google Docs, right?
Probably, but I think I wanted them in Markdown formats.
Yeah.
And so like I started off doing the notes in Nextcloud notes.
Right. Yeah. And that's, man, you're probably the reason why I write in Markdown so much.
Could be.
I mean, I was kind of indifferent when you stood that up, and I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool. I like Markdown anyway. It's good. And I mean, we've been using that ever since.
Yep.
And yeah, so you're the reason why I write notes.
I probably am. No, it's probably all me. You can blame me.
What a guy! But
so
yeah,
that's the shining example of the best snap I think that's out there, right?
So now let's talk about why they're bad.
What's the worst thing? I don't know.
The startup time is still a thorn in their side. It is still okay, and I know
much improved though. Much improved.
Well,
I think it's a thing. All right, so it gets some hate and it does have some validity, but
the validity came from VS Code. It took 2 minutes and some seconds to open VS Code.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Well,
but I think it's a thing you got to stay tuned to. Like,
right.
They keep working on it, and so I don't know. Give people a chance. I feel like until they stop developing, then I don't know why not. Right? Why not give them a chance to see what happens?
Because I've always done it this way is the typical answer.
That's a terrible excuse. Terrible.
Oh, I mean, we say that because we like new things, but some people.
Yeah, I do, and I love to see progress, and that's the whole reason why people do the software development stuff.
Yeah, true.
Just to move things forward. They want to move the needle.
I very much like snaps. I like the idea of snaps. I like the containerization that you can achieve, though I think you can still classic snap, right?
You can install things classically. It gives you a warning.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do like that idea. I think Flatpak might be a little ahead in that way.
Maybe, yeah.
But either way, especially on an Ubuntu system when it's just right there, I like snaps generally.
Right.
But yeah, even though they're much improved, you can still feel it. You can still feel the startup difference.
Some of them more so than others.
Right. But I understand why. It is because these little packages are compressed on disk, which
exactly
I don't think they need to be. I mean, at least for the graphical apps, don't do that. I don't. Are we still working with 20 gig SSDs here?
You'd be surprised.
Really, though?
Yeah, but all right. So you say that, right? But even it doesn't take long. I would say on the low side of things, a 128 gig or a 256 gig drive is probably kind of common, and it really doesn't take long to fill those up. Well, with
stop
other
installing
things.
browsers.
Well, not even that.
Like, I mean,
I'm just saying, like, you got to save some room for all of your files someplace, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think that's still kind of commonplace.
You
see a lot of machines advertised with that's the size they come with.
Yeah,
because people are storing stuff in the cloud, but they aren't.
Well, dude,
You know?
you just got to do what the Mac people do because, before it becomes $8,000 for a Mac, you just have to deal with a smaller disk. And then you just plug in an external disk for all your stuff.
Yeah, and then that's super slow. And then you're blaming everything on the, on the snaps, but it's really because you've got a USB disk attached to stuff.
That's one thing that we didn't test that I think I'd like
you know
to.
What I mean?
I'd like to go and test that. I'd like to know if I were because there's no way that thing is using more than like 30 gigs just for the apps or something like that.
It adds up quick.
Okay, all right. So that's going to be something that I want to do is I just want to install like all the snaps that I might accidentally use. Not all of them, but like anyone that I would consider using. I just need to go down the list and be like, yep, give them all to me. Reboot a couple of times, let them update a couple of times because I think they keep old versions, don't they?
They do. So they have the current version, the old version, in case you need to revert.
Right. Okay.
And whatnot. Yeah.
So kind of hang on to that. And I just want to see just how, I hate using this word, bloated Ubuntu becomes after a few weeks. Okay. So I can't immediately, maybe I'll just do that in a VM because you can do that in a VM.
Yeah. Enough to tell. Right.
Right. Just because that's all I'm looking at. I'm not worried about performance or anything like that. I truly want to know how chunky your installation gets when you install all the things and then just let them go for a while. Because while I do believe you, I mean, and it is true that snaps are bigger than their deb counterparts, I don't know. I don't know that it would be that big.
But, I mean, Flatpaks have the same problem. They're doing the same things.
Exactly.
They're bundling all the stuffs in there, too.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I've heard that argument on the Flatpak side.
That's a, that's
a wash.
level.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and because these applications are more and more containerized or whatever, I mean, OBS has the official OBS thing. We just talked about Fedora getting in trouble with that. Then Firefox and Chromium are Snap first on the Ubuntu side, and more you're seeing. Bottles is another one that are Flatpak only. You're seeing these applications take what these platforms were initially made for and actually running with that. Like, they want, for better or for worse, like I know that packaging things up, especially when you're coming from a distro like Slackware. But,
oh my God.
The packagers handle that. That's a packager job. We're slowly moving away from that. I mean, more and more, you're looking at these applications being containerized, or containerized, right? Like that is the word.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of it is because people want, up to date. They want their apps to update.
Exactly.
Even if their OS does not. And
right.
So packagers are really focused on the whole OS plus, the apps too, and getting those rolled out. And so, all that stuff has to interact with each other and whatnot. It's not focused on the application. So if you want to get the application in front of everybody and you have that up to date, I mean, it's just a couple of steps for said developer potentially, or, larger group of people.
Right.
Package those up as a snap and then keep it up to date,
Exactly.
As it comes out.
Exactly. They can work in concert as opposed to one waiting on the other. And
exactly.
A lot of times the other is going to say, nope, that window closed. We're not updating that. You're going to have to wait until the next version, so
because you have freezes and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, I think this is great, and it's not going to ever remove the need for package maintainers unless the Ubuntu core desktop thing really actually takes off, and I don't see why that wouldn't be not a good thing. Just I don't see why it would fail.
Well, it does. It handles things differently, and so you think, some things you can't necessarily do in a snap. So it doesn't work like the application snaps necessarily for all the components.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like the kernel. Okay, so it's a snap, but it basically just copies all of that stuff down onto the file system. It's not running it as a snap at that point.
Okay, so it's a delivery mechanism and not fully containerized and all that.
the way I understand it, yes.
Okay.
And so you're getting that up to date, but in the end, you probably aren't suffering the performance issues that you'd have with the other things because it's not coming down. It's not uncompressing that on the fly. It's already just splatted out on a file system.
As it should be. That was a point that I wanted to talk about just a little bit because startup times can be so slow. And yes, I get that it's really only a problem after a reboot, and it's really only a problem when you're talking about graphical apps.
Right.
And it's really only a problem when, these graphical apps tend to be on the larger side where the decompression time is larger.
Right.
Why is there not like a stat counter?
Technically, I don't know why. Right?
Okay,
why does it not sit in their background like after you've logged in and start uncompressing these things in the background so that they're ready to use when you go to click on it? I don't know.
Exactly.
There could be a reason for it. I don't know.
But it seems, and I could be totally off base, but I just do not understand why you can't already decompress some of these in memory or maybe even on disk, have a little essentially separate swap space or whatever that can be deleted if you want, and just uncompress them so you don't have that startup time. You can still deliver them compressed. You can still do all that. But just during
because that's
boot,
a good delivery method. Everything gets delivered compressed.
Right. And I mean, I don't see why it can't do some kind of local telemetry. Ooh, the telemetry word. It can't do some local telemetry that isn't shipped off to anybody. It just does it locally, and it just pre-caches this stuff.
Yeah.
It takes into account how much memory you got. If you got enough, pre-cache. If you don't, don't. And just have it available to when you click the application, there isn't this big worry that it's going to take a while. And it takes less time now than it ever has in the past.
Absolutely.
But still there. And
I don't really notice it anymore for most of the things that I use. So, and I'll say Firefox is probably the one that I've used the most over the last few years.
I've been impressed.
I really don't notice it anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't, because
not on Firefox.
Nope. And so I think it's achievable even on the fly.
Yeah.
I'll say as long as they can get things to work that good, I'm good with it.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about the deb takes 8 seconds and the snap takes 9.5 seconds, I don't care at that point.
Do you notice?
It is
really
not
noticing.
No. But it's not get up and make a cup of tea kind of wait the original VS Code situation was. So I am pretty impressed with where snaps are today. I mean, most of the applications I'm looking for are there. They do start up much, much faster than they used to. Not quite on the deb side, but
maybe not, but yeah.
But they're really good.
Yeah, I was just going to say the other thing that we've touted a lot is security isn't necessarily convenient. So you have to have a trade-off there somewhere, right? And so if we want to increase our security posture, we've got to live with some inconvenience. And if it's slightly slower and we're actually doing some confinement there, I don't know. I think that's not a terrible trade-off.
Yeah. Can you get the confinement while still pre-caching it, though? I think you could. I mean...
Probably.
But again, I'm probably dumb for suggesting it. There's probably a really good reason.
Yeah, I don't know.
That this isn't...
And maybe it's coming and we just don't know about it.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a system with 32 gigs of memory on it, man. Just throw it all into RAM. I get it if you only got 4 gigs or something like that, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's probably not typical of most machines.
Yeah.
But sure.
Just pre-cache Firefox, because it's not like you're not going to open it, or whatever your browser choice is, right? That's what the local only telemetry is for, or whatever browser you launch. Just pre-cache that, and you won't have to wait. But yeah, I'd like to hear if I'm really off base with that. But it has just always been something at the back of my mind. Why don't you just do that? We have cache. It's a thing. Utilize it. But anyway, all this is coming from the reason why I'm so adamant about this is back in about 2018, Ubuntu did this thing where they were trialing some applications as a snap, and they chose the calculator. Now, mind
I
you,
know.
this is 2018. Remember when this was? This was shortly after the announcement.
Yep.
That
just dropped Unity, right?
Mark,
Yep.
we're not doing Unity anymore. So old Unity we're done with. Unity 8, we're also calling it quits on. GNOME, Ubuntu GNOME, you're not a thing anymore because Ubuntu is now just GNOME.
No, yeah.
And so they're taking away the Unity lenses from me where, you know, like it was KRunner or the Mac one or the Finder, whatever it is.
Spotlight. Is that Spotlight?
It's Spotlight. Yeah, Spotlight.
Yeah.
And Windows doesn't even have one. Theirs sucks.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, God, it's terrible. Come on.
Yeah, they do.
But you know, like you're able to do these things in there, like basic calculation.
Right.
I never opened up the calculator when Unity was around because I could just type in my thing in the lens. I just hit the start menu or start button, whatever it was start back then. You know, now it's cool cogs and things or a penguin. But back then it was the Windows key. So when I hit the Windows key, I would type in 2 times 8 divided by 4 multiplied by 3 times whatever to the 8th power, whatever. And it would just spit it out for me. And I'd be like, great. But they took away the lens. And so I'm sitting here like, okay, well then how do I do calculations? Well, obviously I use the calculator.
Well, 2 minutes later you can have it.
Exactly. When I have to wait, I want to say, being fair, it was like 18 seconds or something. It was not quite 30 seconds or anything, but it was an abysmal wait.
I guess.
This is the first time I was like, why in the world do they not just cache this?
Well, I mean, I guess it's like I said earlier before the show. Some of it is like importance. Like, is it an app you're dependent upon? No, it's an app you want to use, but I mean, it's not one that you're dependent upon for your system to work. The other thing is, it's probably not one that everybody uses. Like most people do, you know, calculations on their phone or whatever. They don't really gravitate to the desktop to do their. Unless you're an accountant, you're probably not doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't even have a 10 key, but I still use it, you know?
Yeah, no, I get you. But like I'm saying, want to test something? You want to test it on something that's a little less important than, you know, some of the other stuff. So it's, I feel like it was probably not a terrible place to start.
Yeah, well, not for me. Maybe for everybody else.
Leo's burned by it still, I can tell.
But yeah, I'm still bitter about it. I am still bitter about it. I don't think 20.
I'm fine with it. Like I don't know. I'm
1804. You can still use 1804. Thankfully, that snap was updated independently and fixed. But man, did they revert that in the next version of Ubuntu? It was that bad.
Yeah, it was an experiment, and sometimes experiments fail.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, for all of that, I am still actually looking forward to the Ubuntu Core Desktop thing, where everything is a snap, and you know, for all of its flaws and all of its weirdness or whatever, I think it's going to be really, really cool. Yeah. Because I think it's going to translate into kind of the same vein of desktops that we're getting with all of the. None of these words actually describe them all. The immutables, the atomics, the containerized, the composables, right? Like this is going to sit up there in that grouping and in just theory, be another option. If I had one, they've promised it 3 times. 3 separate times they've promised me this type of desktop.
They've thrown some proof of concepts out there, but really, I mean, it takes a lot of work to make one of these things actually ready to go. And so, you know, they've been doing some other stuff in the background.
I get it. They're doing fine. But, you know, you promised me something. I'm going to hold you to it, man. You said snaps were good. Calculator wasn't good. I held you to it. I'm still talking about it. It's been how many years? 7 years. It's been 7 years, Dan. I'm still bitter about it.
Yeah, you and the rest of the internet, though. I think that's the thing, is like nobody's willing to revisit any of this stuff and see if it actually has changed. I know you are. I'm just
the calculator does indeed, if you snap it.
It works now.
It's faster now because the LZO and everything else switched. They've done good work. And I am ready to admit that the experience in 2018 is not the experience today. And, you know, Ubuntu is better for it. But
I'm glad you recognize that because the rest of the internet does not. Things are just so stagnant in time. Like it is always there. It was bad once. It'll be bad forever now.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
It is such a shame that that there are so many folks out there that don't, and there are plenty that do, but there are definitely the folks that have one bad experience and write the whole thing off for the rest of their entire life, and it will never change. It will never change. Yeah, and these are tinkerers. These are tinkerers that are making these. I mean, you had that one bad experience, and then you just assume for the rest of its life that it's bad. And these are tinkerers, right? I'm not talking about regular people that try Linux, go ew, and then leave. I sure, but it always strikes me as so odd that tinkerers wouldn't give it another shot. Most do though.
And a fair shot. And a fair shot though too. Right.
Yeah. Right. I created a VM and a VM and a VM and a VM, and then I ran a snap, and it was kind of slow. I don't like it.
Yeah. No. Really. Huh. About that.
Hang on. You wait. I mean, yeah, you were waiting to fail on that one. Yeah. So yeah, man. My experience on Ubuntu has been much better than my preconception after getting a few bad tastes in my mouth, right? So is it the same Ubuntu from 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago? Absolutely not. I think they've made a whole lot of progress. I think they're still making a whole lot of progress, and I think snaps are still moving forward. And overall, they're great. They're absolutely great.
I tend to agree. All right. Well, anyway, you can catch all the links at linuxuserspace.show. And if you want to contact us, you can send us an email. contact@linuxuserspace.show, or you can go onto the linuxuserspace.show webpage, and there's a contact button, and that will, let you send us a message, and you can do it somewhat anonymously.
So click on that button, and that way you don't even have to fire up your Thunderbird to send us an email. You can just do it straight from the website. You can give us a return email if you want, but you don't have to. And we might
send you a message back if you do.
More likely, we're just going to talk about your thing on the show, and then we're going to totally forget to email you back.
but you'll get recognized one way or the other.
Yeah, we definitely talk about the thing, and you can definitely be there to listen to it. But Dan and I have learned a lot of things about ourselves over the time that we've been doing this podcast, and one of those things is that we're just bad at that. I think what we need is an assistant. That's what we need.
Not AI though.
Not to write the thing, but to click the send button for me. Like, because a lot of times it's not that I didn't think about it or I don't have an answer for it or anything like that, because we obviously talk about it for way too long on the show.
Absolutely.
But that it doesn't get typed.
Yeah.
And then sent, right? If I knew someone could take it over the finish line for me, I could get you halfway there, like but we are terrible.
yeah, you're not wrong.
But we'll still talk about it.
We totally will.